Hi guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I know it has been a minute since I filmed a sit down video, so I'm going to start doing that again. I've just been like super busy with school and finding the opportunity to even film. It's honestly almost a miracle these days. So in today's video, I'm going to be detailing to the best of my abilities the process of how I traveled, how I came here, got a school, and all that. I want to give you a few disclaimers before I start. I know that where we are in Nigeria, talking about traveling out of the country is a very sensitive topic, especially because things have been just going downhill. The economy is really bad, and everybody has been complaining, including me. So, me making this video is not me trying to be insensitive or tone deaf. I'm very much aware. Very much aware of what is going on. I'm just doing this video based on popular demand because a couple of people have asked me, and I promised that I was going to make a full video like this, so that's why I'm doing this. Okay, so before we get into it, please make sure that you give this video a thumbs up. Please make sure that you also subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can be notified every single time that I publish a new video. Also, feel free to leave your questions in the comments because I feel like that would really help other people who are watching. And if I don't know, I'll say I don't know, but if I do know, I'm going to answer them accordingly. Another thing I want to say before we start is the fact that I did this entire thing by myself. I did not ask any agents for help or anything. I inquired, but most agents or many agents don't like to do for Americas because they just feel like you won't get a date. It's kind of difficult, and that discourages them a lot. So I just went ahead to do it by myself. I had a friend who had done it before me, and when it got to my own turn, I kind of knew some things to do, but in the areas I wasn't clear, she put me through, and that's why I'm paying it forward by making this video for those of you that might want to do the same thing. So without further ado, let's get into it. So if you're looking to travel, and keep in mind that I'm making this video specifically for America, okay? I'm a bit familiar with the UK process. I feel like some of the things I'm going to see here would also be applied in the UK process, but a majority of what I'm saying is my own process and how I came here and how most people do it. Okay. And this is also for masters. I don't know how it is for undergrad. I don't know how it is for PhD and other programs. So first thing you have to do obviously is find a school, and there are so many factors that you should consider when you're finding a school. You should consider the school fees because the educational system here is really expensive, and like I said, I'm not trying to be tone deaf, but if you're considering a school, look for, let's say, like a state school. Don't be looking for private schools because the amount of money that you pay is a lot, especially as an international student. The odds are kind of not in your favor, especially if you're coming from Nigeria, so you have to think about the school fees and all that. And usually people maybe go to states that are not very populated, maybe states like Wyoming, North Dakota, Montana. All those states are kind of up north. So you have to consider which state you're going to, and if the school is a good school, you have to also consider the environment. For instance, now I stay in a small town, so you won't find a lot of, in small towns like this, you won't find a lot of public transportation. You won't even find any public transportation. So you have to consider that, because you don't want to go to a new place and then the next thing you're thinking about is getting a car and maybe trying to get your driver's license. Like, all those things are really stressful. So consider a state that is should I say relatively affordable. Consider being in a place that there is public transportation, and then consider your budget. If you want to live in a small town, a big town, a mixture of both, like that. So you have to really think about that. Another thing that you should keep in mind is application fees. So for Canadian and American schools, you have to pay application fees when you're applying, and I know sometimes application fees are nothing. I shouldn't put it. Application fees are usually, let's say, $100 and above, depending on which school you're going to. It could be less. The application fees that I paid for my school was like $75, and then the other school was 85, I think. So you have to consider the fact that you need application fees to apply. So something else that you should consider is if you have family around, it's easier to be close to your family members if you're coming to the US or if you're going to a country like Canada, because these countries are very big. Like, the West Coast and the East Coast in the US has a time difference of 3 hours, and it's the same country. Do you get? So you have to consider that it's really far. It's not somewhere you can just say, okay, I'll come and see you in the next 3 weeks. You need to properly plan and book flights and all that. So if you have family members, consider applying to places where your family members are so that you don't feel too far away from home. On the other hand, if you're coming for the first time, I promise you, you'll be fine. You will meet people and you will make friends. The next thing you should keep in mind when you're applying to schools is the tuition, which is the fees, and then you also need to consider the requirements. So some schools require an English proficiency test regardless of what you studied in Nigeria. Many schools don't really care about the fact that Nigeria is an English speaking country. Sometimes you'd be lucky to get schools that will say, okay, we're waiving it because we know that Nigeria is an English speaking country. But just to be on the safe side, I think it's better to take some English proficiency tests. IELTS is usually accepted, it's widely accepted. IELTS, TOEFL. I think some schools accept Duolingo, but by and large, you just need to check for the requirements and know which of the tests that you can afford to take. And then also keep in mind that when you're doing all this research, give yourself like enough time, maybe a month or 2 weeks, to properly think about and narrow down your options. Do you understand? If you're applying to a school where maybe the acceptance rate is like 4% or 5%, that means you have to bring your best game. And I don't even necessarily think that that's a wise decision to make. You should be applying to schools where maybe their acceptance rate is 90 something percent, so that you be guaranteed that, okay, you could be able to get into this school. I don't know if that makes sense, so that you don't waste your money on application fees and doing all these things, because most people apply to, let's say, 5, 6, 7 schools, and I'm not going to lie to you, that's a lot of money as far as just looking for application fees. I applied to only 2 schools because I was just trying it out. Do you understand? I just wanted to see if it will work because Canada wasn't working for me. So I applied to only 2, and by the grace of God, I got admission to those 2. So I picked this one. When you're looking for English proficiency tests, I would recommend IELTS. So before you actually write your IELTS, you also need to practice and study. And that's why I'm saying that to do these things, you have to do it like a year in advance. And I'm not trying to be tone deaf, like I said at the beginning of this video. I know that the country is hard, I understand, but I'm just telling you the reality so that in case this is something you're planning to do, you have all these things in mind. Usually IELTS test results come out in, let's say, a month, so you have to think about that. I prepared for my test in less than a week because I was just trying to hurry to have an IELTS result. So it's not hard, but it's confusing. And usually it's the academic IELTS test that many schools request for. Don't do the general, do the academic. There are many IELTS tutorials on YouTube. You can check for them, and I mean, you should be fine. So practice, because it's not easy. Okay, it's not. As somebody who studied English, I'm telling you that exam is not easy. I'm saying it's not easy because these are things that you already know, but when it's time to put them down, they put it in a very confusing way, and it's kind of funny. So just putting that out there so that you know. When it comes to applying to schools and looking for programs to do, I feel like think about the programs that you can say, okay, after I get this degree, what job can I do? You don't want to spend thousands of dollars coming to a new country and then you're not able to find a job. So you should do something that will be able to sustain you afterwards. Think about a master's degree like an investment. If you invest into something, you want your return on investment. And imagine if you've come to school, you've done everything, but you're not able to find a job. It's really scary. It's really sad. Trust me, I think about it sometimes, and I was very, very intentional about picking the course that I'm studying. And this is not me trying to gloat or anything, but I'm just saying that in the process of doing your master's, in the process of looking for a school and looking for courses, look for something that you can use to get a job after, and something that is not too far off from what you've already studied in school. Usually American schools are kind of lenient. For Canada, I don't know, I just have a bias towards Canada because I tried to get into there like 5 times and it didn't work. And I'm talking as someone that has work experience. So that's another thing you need to consider, work experience, because they will ask you for your CV, you ask you for statements, all those things. So you just need to be prepared ahead of time. Programs in STEM are usually very good. STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So find your way around that and you should be fine. The next thing you should do is get your documents ready. So as you're checking for requirements for different schools, you see all the documents that they need, like your birth certificate, your school results, your unofficial transcripts, all those things. What else do they even usually ask for? English proficiency tests, documentation that shows where you're from, your passport. Passport is like, if you've not done your passport, you have to do your passport. So get your documents ready, okay? Even what they call that thing now, passport photograph. There is a size called American passport. Like if you go to a passport shop or passport office or something, you can just tell them that you want to take a passport picture for American passports, right? And then they just know what to do. Once you say American passport, they know what to do. So keep that in mind and make sure that you take a picture that is nice, because that picture is what you're going to be using for your visa, your DS-160 or DS-2019, one of them. I'll get to that much later, but take a studio passport picture. It's not expensive. It should be like, let's say, around less than 2,000 naira. Let's say 1,000 something. Sha. It's not expensive at all. So keep that in mind. Invest in it. Trust me, you'll be happy. So when you're done applying, you wait for your application results, and if they accept you, usually US schools will issue you something we call I-20. So your I-20 is what you're going to take to the visa interview. Okay, I'll talk more on that much later, but the school will issue your I-20. In fact, as you're going through the process, you will, how do I put it now, it's the process is kind of intuitive. So every step you take, you'll be exposed to what the next step is. So you also need to prepare your transcript from school, because some schools will ask for your transcript, and I know that some schools take a while to process transcripts, so you need to also be aware of that. Or you think about all these transcripts processing companies that help students to process their transcripts easier. If you went to, let's say, a federal or a state university in Nigeria, if you went to a private school, you can always send over your electronic transcripts to the school. That's the school you're applying, so the school that you've gotten accepted in. Okay, in the next part of this video, I'm going to be talking about preparing for your visa interview and what you're going to need and all that. So the first thing you would need is your I-20. Your I-20 is, I don't even know what to call it. Like I'll Google it and then I'll leave the definition on the screen or something, but it is basically essential for you can't even go to the visa interview without your I-20, and your I-20 should be issued to you by the school. So different schools have different times for processing your I-20. Some schools it could be maybe 2 weeks, some people it could be 2 days, and they're usually very open about that process. So once they give you your I-20, you have to now start applying for or preparing to apply for your US visa. So if you're a student, if you're a master's student, or even if you're undergrad, I think the student category is F1. And then I'm not sure, take this with a grain of salt, I think it is F2 if you have dependents. I'm not sure, but if it's just you, then it's F1. The next step in the application process, this is pre your visa interview, your visa application, is to pay your I-901 fee, otherwise known as SEVIS fee. I usually say service. Some people say civis. So whichever one you want to call it is share your I-901. So you have to also apply for this one to get the receipts from the website, and this is really important. So I'm going to link the website in the description box that you can use to apply for your service fee. But in case you're listening to this and you're applying immediately, the name of the website is fmjfee.com. So letter F, letter M, letter J, FEE.com. So that's where you go to apply for your I-901 or your service or civis fee. Now, when you go there, you will see on the website, it says there's check I-901 status and then there is pay I-901 fee. So you will go to the pay I-901 fee and then input the details that they ask for there. So your service ID is going to be listed in your your I-20. That's why I said that you can't do anything without your I-20. So before you start even applying for processes of visa and whatnot, you need your I-20. So it's boldly listed there. Like I said, the school is going to issue that to you. So you input that service ID into the website that I just talked about. You input your service ID and then other information that they're going to ask for. The website is very intuitive. So you submit and then they bring out a form for you and then you can print it and see how much your service fee is. Usually it is about $350 because that's what I paid. Okay. Now, this is the tricky part. Paying for your I-901 fee. Usually people do it through Western Union, but many Nigerian banks don't allow for that. Again? I don't think they pay to Western Union anymore. So now you have to think about finding somebody in the US to help you to pay. Does that make sense? And that means that you have to also send them the money to pay for you, unless they are willing to pay for you by themselves. Does that make sense? So usually the person in the US will go to, let's say, a Walmart to help you to make that payment through Western Union. It's easier for someone in the US to help you to pay your I-901 fee than for you to do it in Nigeria. I'm not sure that there are ways to do it in Nigeria. I'm really not sure. I got my uncle to do mine for me. My friend got her sister to do hers for her. So you have to think about, okay, do I have somebody in the US that can help me to pay this thing? I hope that makes sense. I know this is a bit confusing, so I'm just going to go over it one more time. So when you've gotten your admission, you've gotten your I-20, right? Because the school will mail you your I-20. It's an electronic document. They'll mail it to you. So when you get your I-20, you now have to apply, or let's say pay your service fee or your I-901. Service is also known as I-901. On the website, you will see I-901. So you go to fmjfee.com and then you click on pay I-901 fee. I hope that I'll be able to put the picture on the screen so that you guys can be guided. So when you now input the details that they are going to ask for on that web page, which is your service ID, keep in mind your service ID is on your I-20. When you input it, you submit the details and then they generate a document for you that you're supposed to use as, let's say, proof of, okay, I want to pay my I-901 fee. So the amount is about $350. I'm not sure how people pay it from Nigeria, but usually people pay it from the US. So you would get somebody that you know in the US to pay that fee for you, and obviously you have to send the money to them one way or the other. So keep that in mind. So when you've paid your I-901 fee, or when whoever wants to help you has paid the fee, they will send you the receipt. Okay, so you have to hold on to that receipt, and then you can even go back to the website to check for the payment status, and if they say that okay, your money has been received, then you should also print out that document. Printing out documents is really important. Don't lose anything, because it could get to a point where maybe things get a bit confusing and you need to kind of backtrack and take account for what you've done so far. So anything that you see, any documents, anything at all, print it. Even if it means taking a screenshot of it, make sure that you print it and keep them carefully. Always have a file where you keep all these papers, because they will come in handy and you will need them. The next step now is to apply for your visa. Keep in mind that everything I'm saying here is strictly for America, okay? I don't know how it is in the UK or in Canada or in other European countries or even in Australia. This is simply for the US. So to apply for your US visa, you have to go to ustraveldocs.com. You have to go to ustraveldocs.com, ustraveldocs.com to get your DS-160. Okay, DS-160 form. So you download the DS-160 form from ustraveldocs.com and then you fill it out. I think you can fill it out on the website. Yeah, you have to fill it out on the website. And keep in mind that there is a number that they will give to you. The number starts with it. Should I say a serial number or like a code? It starts with AA, because A is not a number, but it starts with AA something. So you have to write down that code somewhere, because the website refreshes very quickly. Okay, and once it refreshes, sometimes it can take away the changes that you've made. So make sure that you have that number somewhere, otherwise you're going to spend like an hour. I spent almost an hour trying to do that thing. And also make sure that you have good internet connection, because if you have bad internet, it's really going to frustrate you even more. And also remember to have your application number written down somewhere next to you. Take your time to fill this thing, because the information there is very, very sensitive. That's one, and it's a lot of details that you need to scramble to get things to fill out. You understand? And remember that you cannot do any of these things without your passport. So you need to make sure that your passport is, right next to you and you have it, you've applied and you've gotten it. Keep in mind also about the passport, I feel like it would be better to pay for passports for 10 years so that when you travel, you're not thinking about, okay, how can I get my passport when I'm not in Nigeria? Because it's kind of more difficult. But if you do it for 10 years, for the next 10 years, you're good. You don't need to think about it. So I hope that makes sense. So keep in mind that I said that you would need a passport photograph, the American sized passport photograph. And this passport photograph is what you're going to use in your DS-160 in your visa that's going to be in your passport if you get your visa. So you have to make sure that at least it is I know this kind of sounds vain, but at least make sure it's a good looking picture. Go to a studio passport office. What's that one that they have in Nigeria? Is it Studio 54 or Studio 52? One of them. So just go to somewhere that somebody can actually take a nice picture of you. And also ask them to send it to you via email so that you have a copy of it, a soft copy of it, because you're going to be uploading it for your DS160. That's the picture that everybody's going to see you with for the for the next couple of years in the US. So I hope that makes sense. So once you're done filling out your DS160 form and you submit, that's where you'll be able to pay for your US visa interview. Now, there are ways to pay. It's through GT Bank. Okay, so you can do it through the bank app, or you can do it through into the bank physically. I did my own with the bank app. One of my friends helped me to pay, so he just sent the receipts to me when he was done paying with his bank app. So I think the amount, it could have increased, but as of when I paid, it was 75k. So you go ahead and pay for it, and then you download the receipts. When you download the receipts, obviously you're going to have a soft copy, but you will need a hard copy because you will take that hard copy to your US visa interview. So when you've gotten the receipts for your payment, the bank is usually faster, sha. Well, anyone you want to do is fine. I would advise that you do it at the bank, because then they can print the receipts for you immediately. If you want to do it with your bank app, fine. But you know how Nigerian banks can be very funny and weird, and you don't want to have to pay 75k more than once. So you also need to think about that. So the next step that you have to take is to create an account with ustraveldocs.com. Now, this is for your interview, okay? You create an account with ustraveldocs.com, and then they will ask you to upload a couple of documents. I wrote them down. So they will ask you for your DS160. This is the filled form. When you're done filling it, you have to download and save it, or maybe they'll send it to your email, one of those things. So you have to have it, your DS160 form. Then they will ask you for your service fee number. Remember the service fee that I talked about? You've already paid and they've confirmed the payment and you have the receipt. You need that receipt number, okay? So they'll ask you for the service fee number. Then they'll ask you for your visa type as well. If you're the only one, if it's just you and you're going for academic purposes, you pick F1, because there's usually F1/F2. But just you can pick F1/F2, but usually it's just F1. And then other information like maybe your receipt number from your visa payments. So your visa interview payments, the one you made to the bank, GT Bank. So keep that in mind. I'm kind of getting a bit confused here. So let me just call my friend, because she usually remembers all these things. I don't keep all these things in my head. I hope she picks up. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm fine. I'm in the middle of filming here, and I'm trying to remember. After you've paid your what's it called now? Your visa fee. Yeah, to GT Bank. Do you wait for them to send you an email for you to now what's it called? Select a date? Like I've forgotten the process. So I just got off the phone with my friend, and the process basically, after you've gotten your receipts from paying 75k or the visa interview or appointment fee to GT Bank, so you go back to ustraveldocs.com, okay, and hopefully you've already created an account, because remember that that's the website that you use to fill out your DS160 form. So you go back to ustraveldocs.com, then you go to your profile. They will ask you for your DS160 form, they'll ask you for your service number, they'll ask you for your visa payment receipt. So all those papers, all those numbers, like, they have to be close to you. So like I said, the website is very intuitive, okay? It's very self-explanatory. So if you go there and you've inputted all those what's it called now, all those details or all those information, then you'll be able to select a date, okay? So you would see the earliest dates that they have, and unfortunately this is one of the problems that comes with trying to apply for masters in the US. It's kind of difficult for some people to get a date. For me personally, it wasn't difficult, but your process is going to be different from the next person's process. My own friend, she started applying from 2021, okay, and she wasn't able to get her visa dates till like 2022, almost, I think, August 2022. Me, I applied for my own in May. I got my dates in a week. That's May this year. I got my dates in a week. So you have to think about the fact that your process is going to be different from another person's process. So you look for the available dates that they have. You pick which visa interview you're going for, which is F1, and then you pick a time slot. So this also depends on whether you stay in Lagos or Abuja or another state. I'm not sure about how it works in any other states apart from Lagos. In Lagos, I would advise you to go for the earliest fact pick the earliest times. So if you're able to find a date there, they'll also ask you to pick a time that you want to go. So you could see maybe 7 a.m, 7:45, 8 a.m, 8:45, 9 a.m, like that. So I would advise you to pick the date that is very, very early in the morning, like before the sun even rises. As a Lagosian, you know the drill now. You wake up very early and you have to get there on time. I feel like it's better for you to stand in line when the sun is rising, because you have to stand. There's no sitting down throughout, and I'll get to that in a bit. So pick a date or pick a time that is very early in the morning, so you get there on time, you finish your business, and then you go back home. You have the rest of the day to do your thing. If you go and pick a time that's like, let's say 3 p.m or something, to start thinking about traffic getting there, and it's really stressful. So just pick a time that's really early in the morning. And if you don't find a date, there should be an option for an expedited date. So an expedited date is like an emergency date. Okay, you can apply for an emergency date or an expedited date if your school is about to resume within 30 days, which is a month. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. So you write to them and say, hey, my school is about to resume in 30 days and I can't wait any longer. But keep in mind that your school actually needs to be resuming in 30 days before you go for the expedited date option. Okay, I hope that makes sense. There are criteria for expedited dates. So as a student, the criteria is that your school has to be resuming in 30 days. If your school is not resuming in 30 days and you request for an expedited date, they're not going to grant it to you. And if they don't grant it to you, even if your school is resuming in 30 days, then I don't know. Honestly, this is as far as I can go. Me and my friend were literally praying and fasting for her to get a date because it was almost impossible. Or you could find an agent that can help you with that. But finding an agent, it's extra money unless you're willing to pay, but it's extra money. So you just have to keep that in mind. Or you just keep checking back for when they have a date. So like I said, everything, all these things you need, if you're going to do, you need to start on time, like start really, really early. And I know that it doesn't necessarily guarantee the fact that maybe you're going to get a date, but it's just always better for you to start on time than for you to start late. In the next part of this video, I'm going to be talking about your interview dates and the things that you should know before you go for your interview, how to answer your questions, and everything around the interview itself. Okay, let's assume that you've gotten a date, right? First thing you have to do is print out all your documents, everything. Do not leave any stone unturned. If possible, you can print them out in color. Things like your DS 160, print it out in color, okay? Because they're going to ask for that thing. Print out your I-20, okay? They're going to ask for it. Print out your bank receipts from GT Bank. They are going to ask, in fact, at the point of entry, they're going to ask you for these things. So print out all your documents. You also need to get a letter of introduction from, let's say, an institution or a company, or from somebody or from some places. It's nice to have multiple letters of introduction so that at the point of your visa, if in case they need you to, show proof of something, you have something to show to them. Most of the time, all those documents, you end up not using them, but it is better for you to have it and not use it than for you to need it and not have it. They usually ask for 3 American-sized passport photographs. So remember what I said. Make sure that you have enough. I think like 10 copies. 10 copies is even much, but me, I like to be on the safe side. So maybe 10 copies of that, your American passport-sized photograph. You're going to also need to take it to the visa interview place. In Lagos, the address is Walter Carrington Crescent, I think. Once you've picked the date and you picked the time, they'll send you a confirmation email, all those things. So you have the details there. You know where to go. So I think it's in Victoria Island, Abi Ikoyi, one of those places. Sure. So I'm just going to read out a couple of the documents that you're going to need to print out. So you need your three copies of American-sized passport photographs, bank statements from your bank and from your sponsor, because you also need to think about that. If the school is going to give you a scholarship, 100% scholarship, you make it known at the visa interview. But if not, you need your bank statement from your sponsors, okay? So bank statement, your I-20, your admission letter from the school, your passport, that is your international passport or your passport, your service fee receipts, your I-901, supporting documents, personal statements, letter of introduction from sponsor, and everything else in between. So do not leave any stone unturned. You can always go to the internet and look for which documents that you're going to need to take to the place, okay? So in your letters of introduction, make sure that maybe they include your passport number, make sure that they say good things about you. If you want, you can even send them a copy of what you want them to say in that letter of introduction. And then if possible, you could carry a personal statement. They usually don't ask for that, but you could carry it. So I want to talk a bit about sponsors and finding how you're going to pay your school fees and all those things. Now, if you're a first-time traveler to America, they could probably probe you. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know who is going to interview you, and these interviews are done in person. Like, you're actually talking to somebody. Okay, this one, they're actually interviewing you like it's a conversation between you and in person, in real life and in real time. So you have to think about that. In terms of having a sponsor, maybe if one of your parents is your sponsor or your company is your sponsor, you would need to get bank statements from at least, let's say, 6 months to 1 year, so that you can add it to your supporting documents. If the school that you're going to is giving you a full scholarship, you probably still need to present a bank statement, because if you get to school, the school is only offering you a scholarship, okay? They're not paying for your accommodation. They're not going to pay for your feeding. So you have to also think about, okay, what if the interviewer asks me that, who is going to be paying for your feeding? Who is going to be doing this one? So you still need a bank statement. In some cases, American schools will offer you a job alongside the admission that they've given to you. So let's say they're offering you 100% scholarship. They could also give you a graduate teaching assistantship job. Okay, so a graduate teaching assistant is basically a person who assists professors or lecturers. Here they don't say lecturers, they say professors. So you assist your professors in teaching, in grading students' work, in doing office hours. So that's an actual job, and usually they will pay you an amount of money a month. Okay, if that is the case for you, if that's the package that comes with your admission, you can also tell the interviewer that, okay, I have a job and from this job, I'm going to be paying my accommodation, I'm going to be feeding, things like that. They're also going to ask you if you're going to stay on campus. Most graduate students, so here we call master students graduate students, okay? So there's undergrad, that's undergraduate, and then there's graduates. In Nigeria, it's undergraduate and postgraduate. I think that's the same thing for the UK, but in the US, graduate students are master students, so keep that in mind. So most graduate students here, they don't stay on campus, okay, because staying on campus is kind of expensive and it's a lot of money. So you also need to keep that in mind. If you're not going to be staying on campus, then you tell them that, okay, that you already have plans for your accommodation. They may not get into these details per se, but I'm just letting you know, like, just giving you an idea of what to expect. So if on the other hand you're going to be staying on campus, then you should stay on campus. You tell them that, okay, I'm going to be staying on campus. So just putting that out there for you guys to know. So the next thing that you need to know, this is in terms of answering your questions during your visa interview, is that you have to answer these questions in a conversational manner. I've said this in one of my videos, but I just said it in passing because somebody asked the question and I was able to go into too many details. I didn't want the video to be too long, but I'm going to detail everything here. They are asking you questions like how your friends would ask you questions. If you tell your friends now that, oh, I'm going to do my master's, they're going to ask you, oh, what school are you going to? Which city are you going to? Where are you going to be staying? Who's going to pay your this one? Questions that you get from people that you talk to every day. So don't be scared when they start asking you all these questions. They're just trying to ascertain that you know where you're going, you know what you're doing. Okay. Another thing that I have noticed whenever I go for visa interviews for the US is that many Nigerians don't know how to answer questions, and sometimes they are intimidated by those people because it's white people that are going to interview you. So sometimes there is the accent barrier, but I'm saying barrier in quotes here. I won't call it a barrier per se, because I feel like you can understand them and they can understand you. So all you need to do is just speak properly and take your time to talk. I'm not saying that you should spend too much time there, because those people are interviewing a lot of people in a day. So they really don't have time. But when you're giving your answers, give short answers that are also concise. For instance, if they ask you, where are you going to? You say, okay, I'm going to the University of North Carolina to get my master's degree in technical communication, something like that. Does that make sense? They need to know that you know what you're talking about. So sometimes the questions that they ask you would be based on where you're going, why you're studying what you're studying, and all that. So if they ask you, for instance, okay, why did you choose to study this course? Remember that you're trying to give them the impression that you're not going to stay in their country after school. You're trying to give them the impression that, okay, once I'm done getting my master's, I'm coming back to Nigeria. Don't go there and tell them, okay, I want to use it to get a job that will sponsor my visa. Even if that is your plan, don't go there and say it, okay? what you're meant to tell them, because the visa that they're going to give you is strictly for school. Okay, so you tell them, they ask you, okay, why are you studying this? Tell them that, okay, I want to study this course because I feel like the knowledge I'm going to gain will be valuable to me at maybe my company, maybe my personal business, maybe my daddy's business, maybe my family's business, something like that. Does that make sense? So you have to convince them and give them the impression that after this degree, I'm coming back to my home country. So keep that in mind. That is really, really important, because part of the reason why they deny people a lot is because they don't want people to come and settle in the US illegally. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm not going to get into all those details. I'm just saying that focus on the fact that after your degree, you're coming back to Nigeria. Simple. So just letting you guys know that. They could probably even ask you why you picked that school. So don't go there and say, oh, I picked this school because this is the only school that gave me admission. No. Say something like you picked the school because you felt like their curriculum would be able to satisfy your needs in terms of educational gap, things like that. You give informed answers. When I say informed answers, I mean answers that make sense, answers that if somebody hears you, they'll be like, okay, you really did your research about this. Tell them that, okay, you liked their curriculum. Tell them that you really liked the course that they're offering. Tell them that you read reviews online, you watched the videos on YouTube, things like that. Tell them that you've done your research and you feel like the values that this school is offering aligns very well with your goals and your aspirations in your life. Does that make sense? Another thing that you need to keep in mind is your offer. Sometimes they could ask you that, okay, were you giving an assistantship, or were you giving a scholarship, something like that. So know the offer that the school has given to you, know it in your head, so that if they ask you at the point of your interview, you're able to answer without even thinking. Another thing you should consider is the fact that they could ask you if you have any family members in the US. And one thing that you have to note is that you cannot lie. Do not lie, because they will have a way of finding out. If you have family in the US, say yes, you have family. They probably already know the answer to what they're asking you, so there's honestly no incentive to lying. Like me now, I have an uncle, he stays down south in Louisiana, and I can't remember if they asked me this question, but if they were to ask me, I would say yes, I have family in the US. Another thing that they could ask you is your travel history. Okay, now I personally have travel history with the US. Okay, so that was where many of my interview questions came from. For another person, it could be different, but my own experience was that they were asking me travel history. They even asked me if I've been to any other countries in the world apart from the US, and I said yes. So they even asked me the years that I went there. I remember I went to Ghana in 2008. I was really young. I went to Dubai in 2010 or 2009, one of them. So I had to say those things, and this is from years ago. So if you have the US is very, very thorough. So if you have any travel history or whatever, make sure that you have it in mind. Make sure that you know it, so that when they ask you, you're not doing and you start looking clueless. No, you don't want that. Another thing that they would ask you, if maybe you have parents who travel often, they will ask you that, okay, does your dad travel often? What does your dad do? Because they'll ask you what your sponsors do. If your parents are your sponsors, they're going to ask you what your parents do. This was my very first time going to the US. They asked me, okay, what does my dad do? They even told me that I don't have proof that my dad travels, and I remember that I got a copy of my dad's passport data page, and some of his past visas. They asked me for those information, and I was able to give it to them. So you also need to have, in fact, you need to study for your interview. It is a big deal. It is a very, very big deal. So if you have parents that frequent the US, or maybe frequent any other countries, there is a possibility that they would ask you that. So you need to be prepared to answer. Okay. Let me just say something here. I feel like, because my dad used to tell me this thing, that a good name, everybody knows this, but a good name is really better than money. Because there are some people that maybe their parents have done some foolish things in the past, and they're not able to get into some countries in the world. That kind of reputation is going to affect your children down the line. So you need to also think about that. If you're planning to travel to a new country, don't do anything that is illegal, especially as a Nigerian. Don't make us look bad. Okay, you're supposed to be a positive reflection of the country. But let me just save this part for the for the end of the video. So basically, they're going to ask you all these very deep questions. Prepare for the fact that they could ask you that. Now, when it comes to consulars, the consulars are very neutral. Do you understand? And I know that there are some people that are notorious for denying people visa. I'm not going to deny that fact. And I'm not also going to deny the role that luck or grace plays in applying for a visa. And unfortunately, it's like that for us as Nigerians. It's not very pleasant, but it is the reality. Some consulars are nice and some are not nice. And you just need to be able to prove yourself and answer your questions properly. So, regardless of who is talking to you, speak well in your Nigerian accent. I've always been an advocate of not changing the way you speak when you're speaking to people from other countries, especially countries that are not in Africa. The reason I'm very passionate about this thing is because I used to tell people, if you reverse the roles, okay? Imagine if maybe you meet an American or you meet a European and they're trying to communicate with you as an African, and they are trying to fake your accent to get through to you, to talk to you. Won't you look at them and be like, is something like, why are you speaking like that? Is something wrong with you? Does that make sense? So flip it backwards now and see how ridiculous it is for Nigerians to be changing accents when they're trying to talk to people from other continents. It doesn't make any sense. So don't go there and start trying to fake an American accent or fake a European accent. Speak like the Nigerian that you are, And I'm not trying to say that you should not speak properly. I'm not trying to say that you should go there and speak pidgin, but speak properly. I have a video about how people can learn to speak better and be more articulate. So I'm going to link it here for you to see. That video is really, really helpful. Till date, this is one of the best videos that I've ever made, and I'm so proud of it. So I'll link it there. You can take a whole lot of tips. You don't have to start changing your accent. Oh, I'm going to the School of Missouri University of Science and Technology. You don't need to do that. Speak normally. I promise you that they can hear you. Another thing that you need to know, don't go there and look desperate, okay? Because they can almost smell desperation on people's faces, and you will not blame people for being desperate, okay? I'm not trying to knock anybody down. I was once as desperate as many people could be, and I kind of still am. We all want a good future for ourselves, so I can understand being desperate, but you need to mask it. Be very, very stoic, okay? Just keep a straight face, like how you would answer a regular job interview question. Oh, where are you going to? I'm going to the University of St. Louis, blah 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 blah, to study this and this and this. Just talk, just talk normally. When you see that you're not in quote desperate, I'm not trying to say that increases your chances of getting your visa, but it's better for you to just be stoic, answer your questions properly. You're not there to be smiling with anybody. You're not there to be doing please ma, please this one. They don't play all that. They are very straight to the point. This is for people who are in Lagos. I don't know how it is for Abuja, but people in Lagos, your visa interview place, you're standing all through, and there's no place for you to sit down. No, so just keep that in mind. If you're going early in the morning, make sure that you've eaten so that you're not tired and dehydrated and hungry and all that. So make sure that you've eaten before you go. Make sure that you go with somebody who can hold your phone for you in the car while the person waits for you in the car park, because they don't allow phones there. They don't allow any electronic devices. So they will tell you at the point of entry that, okay, you need to drop your phones. There are places provided for you to keep your phone, but you don't want to do that because I don't know, it's not 100% guaranteed that it's safe. Although I met somebody there that kept his phone there and he was actually good, but I'm just saying, to be on the safe side as a Nigerian, go with somebody that you trust. Maybe they could drive you there in the morning and then they'll wait for you so that they can keep your phone safe with you. The good thing about the US visa interview process is the fact that there and there whether you've gotten the visa or not. You don't have to wait for 3 weeks or 6 months like other countries. As you're going into that interview that day, you're going to come out with an outcome. It's either they deny you or they approve you. That's the beautiful thing about it. That's what I love the most about it. So let's say now that they've approved your visa, okay, they're going to collect your passport. At that point, they'll collect it and then they'll tell you that they'll return it to you in a couple of days. They will also give you a paper or something. They'll tell you about your rights and what you should expect in the US and all that. Because you've submitted your email, you've used your email for all these documentation and registration and all that, they'll communicate to you when your passport is ready for pickup. Okay, usually you can choose a pickup station, and I know that DHL is the one that handles pickup or delivery or whatever. So that one is up to you. The process is very intuitive. Trust me, you will not be lost after then. You would need to pay 4,500 naira. I don't know if they've increased it, but I paid 4,500 at the point of collection. And you can pay in cash, you can pay with POS, but it's just in Nigeria, it's just safer to have cash. Okay, so you pay and then you get your passport back. Now, if unfortunately you do not get your visa, you have to start from the point of paying for the visa fee again at GT Bank. Rinse and repeat the process, and then you apply again, and then you take the interview again. So, this has been a long video. Don't knock yourself down if you did not get the visa the first time. I know that it can be very, very discouraging. I know how that feels because I've been there before, so I can actually speak to understanding the feeling. But it is something that you need to think really deeply about. If you want to go to other countries where maybe the visa process is easier, you can try going to some European countries, and not just the United Kingdom. There are other European countries that are actually really good. The only problem that you may encounter is the fact that maybe you may not see a lot of black people, or you may not see a lot of Nigerians there. I think I've said everything that needs to be said about this process. I think I've laid everything out, but in case you feel like I missed something, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. If you feel like I got some of my facts wrong as well, because it has been a minute since I did it, and I was kind of going off the top of my head, feel free to leave that in the comment section as well, because other people might need this. It's not even just for me, it's for other people who are planning to do these things. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to also subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you'll be notified every single time that I publish a new video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.